It's the Score North Twin Show.
We're gonna win, Twins. We're gonna score. We're gonna win, Twins. Watch that baseball score.
What?
Welcome to the Score North Twin Show. A slow, plodding death march to the end of this season, where the Twins were once 95% to make the playoffs just about a month and a half ago. And after last night, Royals win, Tigers win, Scooble just shoved yesterday for 7 strong innings. And the Twins give up 4 runs early to the putrid 99-loss Miami Marlins at home, by the way. You guys were there. And they were unable to claw back from such a deficit. 4 runs insurmountable at Target Field. So the Twins, as we sit here today, boys, 2 games back of the Tigers and Royals for a wild card spot. Also, the Mariners, who lost last night, Astros clinched the division. Mariners are just a half game back of the Twins. So they're like trying to catch Tigers, Royals, but now also trying to fend off Mariners down here. ESPN gives the Twins a 26% chance to make the playoffs. It was 95% not that long ago. What was it like at Target Field last night? You guys were there.
It was actually a bigger crowd than I anticipated. I think they announced just over 21,000, which again is not great, but at the same time, it's basically a playoff feel. You're fighting for your playoff life, and still 21,000 show up there. And you're playing a team that was trying to fend off 100 losses, and it's the same old story. Team puts up a crooked number against you early. The Twins go 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position, 10 left on base, ample opportunities to drive in runs, and this offense continues to just take putrid at-bats in clutch situations. And in the post game, Carlos Correa, who we waited around for, basically had some very interesting comments that there's a lack of urgency that's going on here.
Wow.
These were some of the quotes from the captain, from Carlos Correa. When asked, do you feel like these guys have the direction to figure it out? Carlos said, quote, I mean, everyone in here has been successful at some point, and they know how to get here. There's got to be a sense of urgency in terms of showing up earlier, getting the work in, trying to find something that can help us. When asked, do you feel the same urgency? He said, some guys, yeah. Some of us hit extra today and try to figure something out. We didn't get the win, but we've got to do more of that and eventually find something right away so we can get out there and put up more runs. And lastly, when asked, do you need more of some of these guys? He said, quote, we're all trying our best and everybody wants to be in the playoffs. It's just not clicking right now. It's 5 games. We've got to give it everything we've got, and we've got to figure it out.
So that last quote was my question, because he was getting, you could tell he was very I think the correct word would be subdued. So it wasn't like he was mad. He's frustrated, but it wasn't like, I mean, his voice didn't raise.
No.
But and he's not really like that anyway.
He's not.
He's a chill guy.
But I mean, this is also an extreme time, and so like if you're ever going to possibly go off the deep end, it's now. But he certainly did not, and I wouldn't expect him to. But the last question was by me, because my feeling was he's going down a very slippery slope here, and if he would like to continue to go down that slope by indicting players possibly, which he's not going to do, sort of backed off at that point. But the first 2 quotes that Declan just read are the money quotes. I mean, there's 5 games left. Carlos Correa missed 51 games, I get that. But he is still, if there is a captain, and there's not an official one, but if there is a player captain on this team, it's him. And with 5 games left to be talking about urgency, and it was very clear that he was talking about the younger players. If you're talking about a lack of urgency or not having the correct sense of urgency with 5 games left, you've been together since February. Like, the ship has sailed. Like, he's saying something that he knows he never should have to be saying with 5 games left. So I thought that those quotes that Dex read just now were incredibly pointed. and we're full of at least some insight into what's going on here. Because the question is, what is happening here? I mean, I asked Baldelli post game, and I'll ask this question till the year is done. This started in Texas, and you can't end it. Like, you guys haven't ended it. Like, a slump is a slump, but this is an identity now. And I thought what Correa was saying about urgency, and he did specifically say some of the young guys, I thought was very enlightening as to what the veterans see as the problem. And the only question then is he taking all of the young guys and saying that, or there are a select few he feels should be doing more and aren't?
Is he speaking about manager in this case when it comes to, because I mean, I interpret these quotes and think, okay, he thinks that there are players on the team, young players, that aren't being professional enough, that don't understand how to put in the right work, aren't
Correct.
showing up with urgency, aren't showing up early, aren't all in on this thing with a few weeks to go.
Correct.
And okay, well, who would be then? I think there's three ways to look at that. One, it's up to, if you're a professional in any craft, you got to know when it's time to hunker down and when it's time to really like get to work early. And okay, you can sense that the group project is failing here. Maybe we should hold a few extra meetings or whatever, right? Batting practice. So some of it's just on individual professionals, but okay, if those individual professionals either don't have the framework or the reference points or the understanding of what needs to happen, there's two parties that need to be held accountable. There's the actual leaders in the clubhouse. Okay, Carlos, you're a leader. Byron, you're a leader. And you could identify Pablo on the pitching side, right? Maybe Kyle Farmer. Are you guys setting a tone with your peers and the young players in the clubhouse where they know, Joe Mauer wasn't the most verbose leader, but when that team was winning a bunch of games from 2003 through 2010, Joe Mauer was in the trainer's room early. He was batting practice, getting right. Like Justin Moore, they were setting a tone with their work ethic. Why is that not translating in this clubhouse? Manager, is it a Rocco thing? Is it, listen, guys, as your manager, as a former Major League Baseball player, this is what needs to be done. These are interesting comments from Correa, and he's putting up a flare to the public here that something
Correct.
is off in that clubhouse right now.
We are now tip of the iceberg as to what's gone wrong, because it's not just everyone. Despite what Royce says, this team didn't suck for a long time. So we're getting now to something's going on here. Rocco, as Dex can attest in his post game last night, basically went into chapter and verse about the problem with the at-bats and how the at-bats are. He did not say this, so I'm not putting words in his mouth, but I think you can contextualize it as not nearly as professional as they need to be.
Yeah.
And I mean, Rocco focused on that and drilled at that and the protection of areas of the plate that they're not protecting. And the fact that when things started to go wrong, they were swinging it way too much, but now it's beyond that. The other thing I wonder when it comes to Buxton and Correa in particular as well, though, is, and this would get at another source of friction, is there any resentment from some of the young guys that Correa disappeared for 51 games when we were all told, I'm guessing including them at the start, hey, it's going to be 10 days. There's a lot here. We are just beginning to drill down on what has gone wrong here.
So also Correa, there's an ending quote here we didn't read was, we have a lot of young guys and a lot of people trying to help, but everybody has to figure it out on their own. So I personally think of all these things that we're discussing of preparation and who is to blame. Is it players? Is it leaders? Is it young guys? Is it manager? I think it does fall on the young guys. I mean, even before this series and kind of early into the slump, there was tone set from even Rocco that there are guys here who are not taking the proper precautions and not taking the proper preparations, I really should say, into maximizing their time. So I would say it's definitely younger players that maybe aren't realizing the gravity of the situation or just aren't doing the proper things that they have to be a complete baseball player. I would be shocked, and also I would look any young player in the mirror that would resent Carlos for taking his time getting back here. Dude, that's a guy who is a World Series winner, one of the best postseason players of all time. And if you have been here for 5 minutes and you're turning a blind eye to that is a self-realization thing that you got to look back at yourself like, wait, who am I trying to criticize here? I would have major problems with that if any young player was looking at Carlos in that light. Are there things that the manager has done that has self-sabotaged games during the skid? Yes, we can probably count on a hand how many times, and those have clearly mattered now that you're 2 games back with 5 to play. But I would say it's the lack of preparation. I maybe I'm being suckered into lip service, but that would be where I would put the biggest part of this blame on.
Well, for the last month, but if you want to zoom out like beyond the last month and go more 30,000 feet here, this team is razor thin depth wise. They are leaning on younger players on both sides of the ball. That, I mean, you're literally looking at Brooks Lee, for instance. Hey, man, it needs to click for you right away. Hey, Royce Lewis hasn't played that many games, but we already kind of view him as this veteran superstar. He has not been in these situations very often where he's trying to manage a full season and his body and everything else. And so this is where I'll throw it back to you guys. Again, you were in the ballpark last night soaking it all in. So were the Pohlads. Jim and Joe Pohlad were sitting up in the owner's suite watching that game. So from 30,000 feet, symbolically, they were watching this thing. And all of this can be traced back to them deciding to shave $30 million off the payroll, leaving this team much more thin depth-wise than it would be if they had kept certain players or had maybe the financial flexibility to make a trade at the deadline. Front office-wise, too, Derek Falvey, whether you did or didn't have financial flexibility, there were some financially responsible pitchers available at the deadline. So let's go from the in the clubhouse stuff to, hey, you had 2 members of the Pohlad family watching that game last night, looking at the standings. What did you guys make of that?
I think it's intriguing because, to go back to the series in Boston, at least on Friday, we know that Joe Pohlad was 5 rows behind the Twins dugout at Fenway Park, and I think Falvey was like 10 rows up, and so like that's a lot of brass very closely watching things. I think the Pohlads are very aware that the entire franchise has screwed the pooch for 2024. Like you cannot not be aware of that. Like you would have to literally just be so tuned out. That being said, do I think that they are capable, without being told by the people that they trust to run the team, of what's gone wrong? Like, do I think they get clubhouse culture? Do I think they get young guys not doing what they should do? Do I think they understand what Baldelli's role should be, unless Falvey can explain it to him specifically? I have no idea. I might say no. Joe's young. Joe's 40-something. And do I think that Joe knows as much about what goes on in a clubhouse as, for instance, we do? Absolutely not. There's a lot of tentacles here. So I make of it that they are very concerned. It doesn't take a genius to look around the ballpark last night. 21,000 announced, but you're within 6 games left at that point, right? In what was supposed to be a playoff season, and you've got fans booing. You've got fans who flat out didn't show. Don't blame them. And you've got a guy who's chanting "Fire Rocco" and getting some people to come along with him in the chant. Is that a problem? Absolutely. Here's my problem. Here's my issue. Do I think that Derek Falvey is going to communicate the exact nature of what he knows to the Pohlads? I struggle with that one. I don't know. I think Derek Falvey's very good at what Derek does as far as his roles of what he gets. Do I think he has an understanding? Do I think this Twins organization, aside from a couple of people that I think do in the business side, understand people? I don't know. I don't think so. So I am very concerned that the proper message is going to be conveyed at the end of the season. I think there's going to be a lot of people, baseball operations-wise, you guys, covering their own ass after the season.
That 21,000 number is 2 things on that. One, it's actually more than I thought. So, because they were getting like 15 or 16 midweek series against the Angels a few weeks ago. It's more than I thought, but it is a pathetic number for the last week in September. And of course, you could sit here. The Twins would say, well, I mean, the Vikings and School is back in. And okay, well, in Atlanta, another team that's scraping mid-80s for wins, kind of a coin flip to make the playoffs. Not a great team, but a team that's trying to get in as a wild card team, right? And they're hosting the Mets last night in a major sports town where the Falcons are super exciting and you got all sorts of other things happening, right? 40,000 people in that Atlanta stadium last night because people are excited about Braves baseball. They want to watch and see what happens. Let's see if our team can pull off a big win the last week in September and get themselves into wild card position and maybe win this thing, right?
Right.
The Astros have built something over the last decade. Great, largely great infrastructure, maybe a little too great sometimes where they're going over the edge with the trash can banging a few years ago, but they've built from roster, leadership, everything, fan base. That's a team that not one of their great teams. They're not going to get to 90 wins, but they have a chance to clinch a playoff spot against a division rival last night.
And came back from the dead.
Yeah, they were losing in that game like 3-1. They draw just under 40,000 people inside Minute Maid Park last night. So, I mean, that's just, man, you're sitting there, you own this baseball team, and the fans are telling you, and by the way, yeah, okay, Houston, Atlanta, those also have big-time NFL teams that are really exciting right now. So that is a common denominator across the board. Why are the Twins drawing half as many fans in the same 50-50 playoff situation as Houston and Atlanta? And I don't really, I mean, there's a bunch of reasons for it.
That was a gorgeous night at the park. Like, if you were ever going to say, let's go watch an exciting baseball team that might make the playoffs, we'll get a couple of tickets. Yeah. Last night was a perfect night for it.
Yeah. I mean, just a year ago, and I believe this is the day they clinched, which was a Friday night home game. Judd, you were there. I think it was a Friday night last year. I know it was a weekend night when they clinched. It was Friday night. Yep, it was Friday night. So that was September 22nd of last year. It was an Angels game. Granted, Friday night home game is certainly a different vibe than a Tuesday night game, but 32,000 showed up for that game because they knew the Twins could clinch a playoff spot. Now, the Twins weren't going to clinch yesterday, but still, 32,000 showed up. I believe Target Field holds, 38, 39 before standing room, so a damn near sellout that they were able to get last year. And now the playoff hopes are basically on life support, but I was telling Ross yesterday on Extra Innings, like, in the event the Twins make the wild card round, somehow win it, and then get, game 3 at home in the ALDS, they might be able to get 32,000, get close to the sellout. It's not going to be the same vibe. It is not going to be the same vibe. And that would mean, dudes, that they somehow got in and shocked and won a playoff series. Mm-hmm. Like, I do not think this town cares. It's not just the Twins fans don't care. Minnesota sports fans do not care. Those swing fans that packed the place last year, which were awesome, those fans are completely checked out by this team.
Real quick, let me give you another comparison. Again, we're looking for teams that were on the border of a playoff run. The 2009 Twins at the Metrodome, by the way. Now, maybe there was some nostalgic value because it was like the last couple series at the Metrodome. There might have been some nostalgic value.
Exciting team, too.
I was there.
But that team was kind of dead to rights at the beginning. Like September 8th, they were 7 games out. Mm-hmm. And they had to roll off, was it like 16 wins or so? Are they like 19-3?
Yeah.
So they were getting hot. Which helps, obviously. But they were literally putting... Dude, there was a game the last weekend of the season where you're not guaranteed anything. You're just trying to get in the playoffs. They're putting 50,000 people inside the Metrodome, even a couple weeks before that against Detroit. 43,000, 36,000. I guess I all of this is to say fans are furious with this team or apathetic toward this team. And it's not just because they've been losing some games the last few weeks. There is a certain feeling that a lot of fans have toward this organization and ownership that goes beyond like, oh, they lost a game to Miami last night, or they've kind of lost some games over the last few months. There's like a core visceral reaction from a lot of fans when it comes to this ownership and this franchise.
And let's go back to the Correa comments though, because to me that is like we're now getting inside of what's gone wrong, and the question is how much can we explore it, right? Like we've now finally opened the damn car hood, and we're knocking around to look at what's gone wrong here. And this to me, those comments are telling, man. When you are calling out your unspecified but young teammates for a lack of urgency, I'll say this again, with 5 games left. 5 games left in a baseball season, which is just a small little sliver fraction of the season, and you're, potentially we're in a position to make the playoffs, and this is what's going to need to be examined. And what I said was, I have some grave concerns if the Twins have the right people to examine it. Like, you're not going to come close to fixing this, and Correa, I think, is going to want out. Now the question with him is, can he get out if he wants it, because his health is going to be a major concern now. But can they even begin to, it's one thing to say we have a problem. It's another to understand what the problems are. That's where I'm worried. Can the Twins understand this, or are we going to get a bunch of people trying to essentially save their own jobs and gaslight the Pohlads into, oh, we'll fix this, don't worry about it?
Yeah, well, those are all great questions, and I think you also have to figure out, because sometimes when you have a bad end to a season in any sport, fans and media just knee-jerk emotionally want a head on a platter, right? You got to fire someone to make everyone feel good for a minute.
Right.
And that's not always the right thing why did it go haywire, both in the micro and in the macro? And are we just firing someone to feel good? But I would say on the flip side of this, I don't think you can have 3 dud seasons out of 4 going back to the pandemic. So they went Bomba Squad, historical offense, 2019, fart noise in the playoffs. Then the pandemic year, they made the playoffs, kind of a weird year. They got bounced in the first round. And then wheels come off in 21 and 22. Resurgence at the end of 2023, but then wheels come off. So now wheels have come off 3 out of the last 4 years. Mm-hmm. And I think if you're going to complete this collapse from 95% chance to make the playoffs to out in a month and a half, on top of 3 out of 4 years wheels coming off, I don't think you can just shrug your shoulders and proceed forward as if, well, that was tough. Let's try it again. I think there needs to be some level of accountability. Even just, this might be a case where public facing, people need to know that you hold people accountable for poor performance.
Yep.
And for failed expectations and not meeting your goals. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what the right exact move is. I don't think firing everyone is necessarily the right move. But to Judd's point, are they going to be asking the right questions behind the scenes, or is it going to be a lot of people trying to CYA? Oh.
And again, I don't think Rocco Baldelli has lost that locker room. Do I think he could be a scapegoat, though, for the problems that have happened? Yeah, managers are the easiest ones to be. And also, look, their coaching staff just might need changing. Tommy Watkins is great in the community, and he means a ton to Rocco.
But this team doesn't have a Tommy Watkins problem.
But hold on. My point is, though, like, look at their whole coaching staff. Like, their hitting is up and it's down, and Rocco literally says, we're not hitting, we're swinging. We're swinging right now. We're swinging. We can't protect the plate. You have not really that human connection that Plouffe is talking about with the players to the manager. Jace Tingler, had problems in San Diego. They haven't really had a guy like that, and unfortunately, Mike Bell passed away basically a year after being hired. That was supposed to be that type of guy for players to manager. If they're not going to blow up Rocco, is what I was trying to get at. Can you make changes to your coaching staff that help bridge that gap? Because that would also be very Twins-like to not fire the manager and replace some supplemental pieces to make that whole again. Like, I can also see that being a case.
Let's talk about the phrase "lost the clubhouse," because I think I think the first your mind goes to, oh my God, the players are like, bleep him. I'm not going to listen to him. I hate him. And that certainly has been the case of some situations. But let's talk about Rocco in the clubhouse, okay? This is not the first time where, at least since Phil and I were doing the show on 1500, this is not the first time that we've had conversations about that very aspect. And it's the clubhouse. How do you control? Like, you have to have some control. And you can't have these three guys like me. These three guys don't listen to me. Rocco Baldelli has thrown every possible move from the playbook in the last month. None of them have worked. And this is why I continue to ask. This started in Texas. You haven't stopped it. There's no tourniquet. Where's the tourniquet? And I don't think he's a bad enough guy. He's certainly not an a-hole to lose the clubhouse. Do I think he's being listened to? No, absolutely not. He's literally talking with 5 games left about an approach at the plate. You met these guys in February. And now you're telling me about an approach at the plate? He, after a series, if he had come to anyone and said, all right, we got drilled in KC and this really sucked. Should I call him unprofessional? Anyone would have said, Correa and Buxton aren't playing, dude. Don't go there yet. No. You do that, you lose them probably. So, I think we think of, if Rocco lost the clubhouse, he's despised. No. I think he's ignored. But I've seen this before, and this is what concerns me. You cannot be ignored. Why aren't the at-bats professional right now?
Yes. The unprofessional comment is kind of a self-own because
Correct.
Your job as a manager is to create an environment that gets full buy-in, that helps everyone maximize who they can be as a player. And if you've got guys that are deemed unprofessional or lazy or whatever it may be, maybe aren't showing up early to BP, that is a direct reflection of the culture that you are either setting or allowing as a
Correct.
leader.
Thank you.
So he's kind of telling on himself in some ways. And maybe there's evidence of Terry Francona, one of the great managers of my lifetime, airing out his team and calling them unprofessional. But you're shining a light on the culture that you help create and oversee, and you're calling it unprofessional.
Right.
So yeah, this is going to be.
And whenever this team has not been without a veteran that they trust to the nth degree, they have struggled, which to me is telling. Nelson Cruz, 19, Bomba Squad. He ran that clubhouse. I don't even know how much Baldelli went in there beyond shaking hands. Nelson Cruz ran that clubhouse. Carlos Correa, before he got hurt, ran that clubhouse. I'm going to tell you right now, Correa being out for 51 games hurt this team as much or more in the clubhouse than it did on the field. Because they lost their way. But damn it, it's your job to, when we're talking about young players lacking the know-how, if he's talking about one guy, that might be one thing. But when he is scattering that across the young players, it's the manager's job to make sure that they are professional as can be. And I'm going to tell you right now, yelling at a collection of young guys in 2024, calling them unprofessional, is lesson 101 in how to lose them completely. Because you know what they do? They take those ears and they turn them off. They don't listen to that crap.
Yeah. So, by the way, I pulled up Baseball Reference. They have Twins at 18% chance to make the playoffs. So Baseball Reference, 18%. ESPN.com, 26%.
But it's such a death march. If they make the playoffs, it's going to be, if they make the playoffs, it's a bigger indictment of the playoff system than anything.
Yeah, it's probably more an example of the Royals needed 3 hours to score a run last night just to lose to
end a 7-game losing streak, Phil.
Yeah. Hey, let's do a random twin of the week here on the Score North Twin Show.
Baseball.
Be plenty of room for griping. I know you'll probably be bellied up at Park Tavern sometime this weekend, maybe watching random baseball games.
No question about that. And you know what? A random baseball game for Sports Dad is great because then he comes on the show and he shares his knowledge and his younger co-hosts mock him. Very, very hurtful to me. But you know where I can share a beer? I can share some sports talk, good times, great food. Park Tavern, of course, in my neck of the woods, located Louisiana Avenue South and Highway 7 in St. Louis Park. Park Tavern's been in our community here in SLP for more than 40 years. And I'm going to tell you right now, they have given back. They've been a place for celebrations. They've been a place for great times, perhaps with family, perhaps with friends. And they want to see you back because there are so many more great memories to be made. Hey, could I interest you in noon on Sunday, the Packers game in the main bar, watching some Vikings with your fellow Vikings fans, 3-0, trying to go to 4-0. A little bit of Skol there. Breakfast, a bloody. How about that? Again, check them out. Park Tavern, St. Louis Park. They want to see you back in the bar because Sports Dad will be at the corner of that bar sipping on a delicious beer.
For 12 straight hours. Yes.
No. Sports Dad will not be doing that.
15 hours.
There might have been a time where the Sports Dad could have gone like that, but no, those days are long gone.
Hey, KS Drywall is here too, supporting the Score North Twin Show, providing full drywall, plaster repair, popcorn ceiling texture removal, and interior painting services. KS Drywall services the greater Twin Cities Metro and Western Wisconsin. They do excellent work. By the way, on that popcorn ceiling, it's kind of an older 1950s through 1980s style. And if you're looking to sell your home at some point, aesthetically, removing it is something you can do to increase the value. Now, some people like it because maybe it quiets the house acoustically. So maybe Judd would opt to leave the popcorn
sawing
ceiling
outside and road work outside.
And maybe opt for the drywall repair instead. But yeah, KS Drywall is here to handle anything from new construction to small emergency repairs. No job is too big or too small. Head over to ksdrywall.com to schedule a free estimate or find them on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Okay.
Baseball.
So Judd has the clues this week in the Random Twin of the Week.
Tough loss.
All time, I have 21 wins. Declan has 19. Judd has 16. Declan correctly answered Sam Dyson as last week's Random Twin. Before that, it was Randy Bush, Otis Nixon, Nick Blackburn, Josh Willingham, and Burt Blyleven. So Judd has the clues this week. Dex and I get up to 3 strikes each. Once one of us hits a third strike, the other one wins automatically. We can shout out guesses whenever we want. No Googling. You may control search your list of previous Random Twins.
If you have that list, sometimes I don't have that list, so I have to send Phil a note saying, can you send me the list?
Yes, we can keep helping you with that.
Are you gentlemen ready?
Yes.
Start Twins engines. All right. This Random Twin was drafted by the Mets in the 41st round. Subsequently, 3 years later, the Astros took him in the first round. So he was a high school pitcher, didn't sign with the Mets. And then 3 years after that, the Houston Astros, after seeing him in college, said, that's a first-round pick right there.
Wow, dude. First-round pick.
This Random Twin did indeed start his career with the Astros.
It's an aggressive clue.
You all know that Sports Dad is a huge fan of the World Baseball Classic, so he's happy to tell you that this Random Twin took part in the first ever WBC back in 2006.
Holy cow.
Well, okay. I
Guesses or?
think I have a guess here, but I want one more clue.
Okay. A man of many talents, his post-baseball playing career included work as an analyst and also a sports writer. He's a sports writer.
Adam Everett?
Adam Everett. Incorrect.
He was still playing in 06.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And he was a long-time Astro.
It's a good guess. It's a heck of a guess. This Random Twin had a nickname that was Roller Coaster. They called him the Roller Coaster. Several teams rode that ride on the roller coaster for a long time because his career spanned 16 seasons, and he played until he was 40 years old. Played until the age of 40.
Oh, okay.
16 seasons. Long in the tooth before he became a sports writer. During those 16 seasons, he played for 8 big league teams.
Good Lord.
8 big league stops.
8 teams, okay.
Man, I'm kind of lost here. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, there's plenty more clues. Plenty more clues. This Random Twin was elected to one All-Star game in that career. So long career, lots of teams, one All-Star game. Over 16 seasons, he finished his career with a WAR of 10.3 and made $37.3 million.
It's a good chunk of change, especially for that time.
Last that long, good chunk of change.
Gosh.
All right, this clue should help. This random twin, despite that long career, appeared in only 24 games as a Twin.
Oh man, who the hell is this? Oh, who is this?
We have one incorrect guess from Declan. We have no.
Yeah, I'm
guesses yet
off the
from
scent. I am off the scent, man.
Phil
Because
Mack.
I can't. The problem is like the World Baseball Classic 06 thing. It's funny. You'd think those teams are more hodgepodge than you would think.
Yep.
Those World Baseball Classic teams.
Yep.
Oh,
Although the
most
first
certainly.
one should have been like dudes. I think in subsequent years, guys kind of found reasons to
Avoid it.
you know.
I would avoid that thing at all costs if I was a player. He finished his career with a 58-63 record, a
He's a reliever.
3.97 ERA, and 93 home runs given up. 3.97 ERA.
No, he didn't play for that many teams.
I'll continue.
This is wild.
4 years after departing the Twins, following that relatively brief stint, career resurgence happens to him with the Florida Marlins. Resurgence.
Fish.
And that came in 2005.
Oh, wait. The resurgence was in
Jones?
05?
Todd Jones.
You got it!
Todd Jones. Let's go, dude.
Okay, I'm good there.
Todd Jones.
Wow. From I'm off the scent, I can't tell what's going on, just a rope-a-dope from
So
Macadac.
well, here's what it was. I knew it was a pitcher because you did give the high school pitcher clue.
Yep, but
And I knew it was a reliever when you said he pitched till he was 40 in 16 seasons.
Yeah.
And roller coaster was kind of a clue. And then I was like, but a 16-year period, was he at the end of his career in 06? Was he drafted in 1990? Was he like,
Yeah,
which the
yep.
answer is yes.
Yes. Traded in that 2001 season when the Twins were, great for a long time, didn't make the playoffs, traded to the Tigers for Mark Redmond. Or
Yes.
from the Tigers, acquired
How
from the Tigers for Mark
in the
Redmond.
hell did Todd Jones finish 5th in Cy Young voting in 2000 with
How many
a
saves did he have?
42? He led the league in
Yeah,
saves
That's why.
and a WHIP of 1.5,
Well, Class A is
1.2
gonna be-
WAR,
he might
and
be
that was
second or
worth
third.
more than Roger Clemens that year, and Mike Mussina that year. That's hilarious.
You got to keep in mind the voters in 2000
God.
were all about saves, wins.
Yeah.
So if
Oh,
you
God,
wind up,
yeah.
if you lead
Yeah.
the league in saves,
I mean, you guys, in '84, Tigers closer Willie Hernandez was the MVP.
yeah. By the way, he only had 4 blown saves the year that he
God, he was great
finished
in
5th in
05.
Cy Young too.
Yep.
05, he was better than he was in
I
2000.
said. Yeah, I think he had 2 saves as a Twin and 2 blown saves as a Twin.
He
Old Todd Jones.
And
He
then he
literally
went to
saved
Colorado.
40. He had 40 saves. He had a better ERA, a better WHIP,
Yeah.
and even, let's see here, a twice as better WAR, and received 0 Cy Young votes.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
That's the voting, man.
So Todd Jones,
All right. Well,
Todd Jones.
Macadac
we barely knew ya.
picking up
21
a
wins?
W.
The Jones.
It'll be that was my 22nd career win.
22nd.
Declan 19, Jubb was 16.
I gotta come back. I gotta rebound.
So Dex will throw out the clues on next week's random twin of the week. I think we'll probably come back tomorrow and do another twin show because we have the twins on the grid from yesterday, so
Yeah.
we can definitely do that. But thank you guys for sticking with us here at the end of this death march. Death by paper cuts, looking up at the Royals and the Tigers in the standings. Good Twins therapy here to close out the season here. Phil, Judd, Dex, we'll see you guys tomorrow.